Today I'm gonna be ranking all the MCU movies, or on a tier list at least. And I think this idea was given to me by I'm the Reverse. I think, yeah, he gave me the idea to make the list, so I'll just make it. So the Avengers, the starting one, I think I'll give it a solid A. Like, I have a few problems with it. Like, I say it was too simple, like way too simple. And also, I say the ending with Iron Man kind of dying. I say that was just a weird type ending. And so I want it to be a little more complex. And sometimes it could get a little on your nerves with the shield stuff, and it's a little confusing at times. But those are like the only nitpicks. It's a really good movie. Definitely, like, probably one of my favorites. It's just a really fun blockbuster, pretty much. The Hulk, I'll give. Wait, why is there an F tier? Okay, whatever. I'll give it D. It's just decent. It's pretty bad. It has bad and decent and pretty good stuff. Like, I don't know the actor's name, but I don't think he's that good of a Hulk, in my opinion. I think he's a good actor, but I don't feel like he portrays the Hulk the best. And, like, Bruce Banner as a character, but the whole story's interesting, and it's not, like, amazing. It's not bad or anything. It's not bad at all. It's just not that good. So, Captain America: The First Avenger is probably one of my favorite films. Like, it's really good for an origin story, and it just gives a good amount of takes on the character of Steve Rogers. My only problem is it's not that good of a story along with an origin story. Like, when it goes into the Red Skull stuff, it's not the best movie there. It's pretty good, like C-ish, B-ish, maybe. It's not that good there, so that's what's holding it from being S. And to think I have one unpopular opinion, so just wait until you see that. You're going to be really mad at me, probably. So Iron Man, yeah, it's as for me personally. I just really enjoy that we're getting to. It's just a simple movie that I wish was a little more complex. It's even simpler than the Avengers, but simplistic is better sometimes than too complex. But it's a really good movie. It has great action. Robert Downey Jr. used to have like a bad acting career or something, I heard, but when he came into this movie, people got into respect for him. He's really good as Iron Man as a whole, and just a very good movie. Avengers: Infinity War is like probably my second favorite MCU movie. I'm right behind a different one. So it's just a really fun blockbuster, and they spent a lot of time developing Thanos, which gave a lot of time to like a focus on other characters, and Vision actually did so decently emotional. Also, the final battle was very, very good. It wasn't nearly as good as Endgame's, but it was still a very good final battle. And my only problem with the movie is such a minor one, but I think the part where Star Lord could have defeated Thanos, but he just didn't, was so stupid. It kind of wanted me to put it in A tier or something, but it's still a very good movie. Black Panther is a solid B. The only reason it's not at least A is because the CGI is horrible, like downright horrible, and it just doesn't. But it just doesn't work for the movie. But the overall story, the score, the villain is great. The story is great. It has a great action. Actually, no, it doesn't. But pretty much everything is solved with vibranium, and honestly, that's getting annoying. But overall, this film has a very good villain whose actions actually complexify into the past of Wakanda that actually works. So, and I also I don't fully remember his name. I think he died before, but I don't know his name. But he was a really good well, Black Panther, I guess. I don't remember his name. It's been a few years since I watched it, but it's still a very good film. Captain America: The Winter Soldier definitely deserved its place in S tier, in my opinion. It's just so the Russo brothers before this just worked on some random normal shows, but then whoever chose him actually, I think, had good eye perception or something. Yeah, they legit made a good superhero, super spy blockbuster with a villain who tied into Captain America's past, who's somehow alive. Everything worked. This thing is just the action is fantastic. The CGI, when there's barely any, but when it's there, it's really good. And it's just a um, fun going on Captain America movie. Oh yeah, and Ant-Man and the Wasp, I give a C, honestly. Yeah, it's a simple blockbuster, kinda, but it's just so weird. in a way, and it just doesn't work for me compared to the first Ant-Man film, which I basically loved. This movie was just so weird, it just didn't work. The action was great, honestly, and it's simple, but I just say the story is too big, and it just doesn't fully work for me. Thor Ragnarok definitely gets S in my book. Like, I love this movie, honestly better than Iron Man for me. It focuses a little too much on comedy, but other than that, it deserves its rightful place in S. It has good storytelling, funny humor. Hela is a more compelling villain than the first two Thor movies villains, mainly the Dark World's horrible villain, but it also had a light color scheme. It also had great action scenes, and the Hulk actually got a decent character arc inside it when he wasn't Bruce Banner. So Avengers Endgame, B tier, but better than this because my problem with the movie, honestly, yeah, I have a lot of problems with the movie. The third act is really good, but the thing is, the first two kind of suck. Like, it doesn't focus on story. The explanation for time travel is kind of stupid, and it makes them, even if we go back and change stuff, there's no consequences to us. They don't care about other timelines. And also, why didn't they just get the Hank Pym particles or something at the beginning of the movie? Like, they could have just traveled back in time, got a bunch of particles somehow, and came back. But other than that, this movie is very solid. When I first watched it, I loved it as crap. Was like gonna give it God tier, but upon a rewatch, it had a few issues. But overall, they're just minor. But it's still a really good movie. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. Honestly, I'm not a big fan of this movie. It's just so jam packed with how they wanted the first. Like, they were trying to copy the first film. Like, Ego didn't feel like a character to me. The story was messy. Everything just didn't work. The love didn't work. It was funny, but it just didn't work in the whole movie. This movie definitely deserves its place in D. It has terrible Is this even Thor: The Dark World? Oh no, Thor. Okay, Thor goes in C, I guess, better than N. So Thor: The Dark World is later, but it's a very weird film. I like the actor who plays Thor. He gives a fresh little type of bubbly take on Thor. But other than that, the Earth storyline doesn't make sense. The hammer doesn't tread the nail. The Asgard story. Loki's a great villain, but his regardment just doesn't feel fully accomplished, and it just doesn't work. Doctor Strange gets a solid S in my opinion. It's a fantastic movie. It's jam packed with fun action sequences that just work and stuff like that. Okay, I'm going to put it back there, but it works. The story is good. The first villain is pretty bad, but the second one is much better. And the way they used time to stop Dormammu was incredibly smart for an ending. Oh, that was Iron Man 2. I'm being stupid today. Iron Man 2 goes in C, D. Honestly, the highest in D. It's a solid film. It's weird. I mean, like, the stretchy lash guy is not a good villain. There's way too many plot holes and everything, stuff like that. So it just doesn't work. This I already explained why Iron Man's here. Avengers: Age of Ultron, high C, I guess. It's a solid movie. It's a pretty good movie. Honestly, I'll give it a low B, but it's a solid movie. Has pretty great action scenes. The good is all as good as the first movie. It's just the bad sequels down way worse than the first movie. So it doesn't live up to its predecessor. First movie definitely gets here in my book. Honestly, I'll put it higher than this. Yeah, but it's definitely deserves A. It's a great fun movie where the action scenes actually work. You get to introduce all the characters like the Snyder Cut, but a little worse, but still a very good movie. For me, this is the best movie in the franchise. It's not my favorite movie of all time anymore until rewatch, but the way the Russo brothers were able to give the actions of the other movies more consequences, more score, more development was just a jam-packed, fun movie with great action. All the little nerdy superheroes battling it out just was amazing. Captain Marvel, I just won't watch this again. Better than Hulk, in my opinion. It's just a weird movie that just doesn't fully work to my expectations. It disappointed me by a lot because I was expecting a decent amount from the movie. Because it just seemed like CGI was great, the costumes were great, just the overall story is messy and flunky as crap. Ant-Man gets a solid very high A. It's a fun, fresh blockbuster that just focuses on Ant-Man as a character. And it explores his origin with his daughter, with his, I don't fully remember, but it explores his friend, the Yellow Jacket's a pretty damn good villain with a very solid opening scene and everything like that. And Spider-Man: Homecoming makes the S tier. It's not as good as, for me, Spider-Man. Like, it's not as good as Spider-Man 2 for the Sam Raimi trilogy, but it's a close second because it's just a fun, fresh on film. It's not a great, like, honestly, if I were gonna tie it up to how Spider-Man is as a character, it's not a good Spider-Man movie at all. It's like a bad Spider-Man movie. When you think of it, the writers were trying to take Spider-Man in a weirder, different way that actually worked. It's not a good, normal Spider-Man movie, but it's a solid movie on its own. It explores Peter Parker as a character, the Vulture, the great villain, who's honestly one of my top 3 favorite comic book villains of all time, right back to other villains. And I say he's better than Thanos, in my opinion, so a very good movie, like a very, very good movie. Iron Man 3, I say, is right behind Avengers Endgame. Very solid film. The first half was great it was just great the first half, but then when they transitioned to the villains, Iron Man was in this prison thing. I'm not that memorable of this film. It just loses the story when it goes into the second and third act. Still a solid film. Dark World, right in front of the Hulk. Messy, clunky film. Terrible villains. Thor's girlfriend just has no plot. The stone, it does work for Endgame, like it does build up to Infinity War than Endgame, but it just doesn't work as a full-on movie, and honestly, I just say if the villains were better, this movie would have definitely been a contender for the A tier, at least. At the least, this is low A. It's a very solid film that I absolutely enjoy. The action scenes are fantastic. It's not a great Spider-Man movie, but it's a different version. A little different, not a dark Spider-Man, but a weirder Spider-Man, you could say. My problem is that the glasses came out of nowhere, pretty much. We never saw him. Tony didn't know. How did Tony know he was even going to be alive? Like, how? And it just didn't fulfill my full wishes for the movie. But it's a great movie because, and I think it's very similar to the first because it's a love triangle again, which I do not find good. Overall, that's my list for all the MCU movies ranked as saying this is the real order, in my opinion. Tell me your list in the comments below. Bye.